those of you who haven't been here before, this is IRIE Dance Theatre. It is the first vocational course in Europe that leads in African and Caribbean dance and other styles. So yeah, that's a little bit about IRIE. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me or any of the other IRIE staff that are around. But tonight we're here for our Kickstart Your Career in the Dance Industry panel. These are our lovely guests. So the plan is we're gonna get started with some questions. We've got some questions for them, and then we're gonna head over to you and you guys can ask any questions you have. So to start it off, we've got Leroy Dos Santos. Sorry. Leroy Dos Santos.
Yeah. Yes. Hi guys.
We've got Kloe Dean.
Hi.
And we've got Waddah Sinada.
Be nice.
Got your name on. So, if you guys could each tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do in the dance industry at the moment.
So, my name's Leroy FX, or Dias Dos Santos, whichever one, or Santo. So I'm a dance artist in the industry. A lot of my work is predominantly now teaching. I teach at Middlesex University, but I'm also here at IRIE as well. Okay, in the family. And I'm also a member of Flawless, who are a street dance crew that some of you may know. Flawless. Who famously appeared on Britain's Got Talent in 2009, so back in the day. So that's kind of my line. So I class myself as a dance artist who also specialises in forms such as contemporary, kind of like on a hybrid sort of vibe. So I do a bit of everything, but predominantly specialise in hip hop and street dance styles. That's me.
Hi everyone, my name is Kloe Dean. At the moment my predominant titles are choreographer, movement director and creative consultant professionally. But I'm also a performer and a teacher, and I've been doing all of that great stuff for about 20 years now, so it's been quite a long time. And yeah, I feel like we're going to get into it, so that's me for now.
Nice. Similarly to my comrades here. I'm a dance artist, Waddah Sinada. I think these days just a dance artist encompasses loads of different things, especially if you're freelancing, it's all about being malleable. So I do a lot of different things, but I would, if I'm asked, I would say, I'm a choreographer, a movement director, and I also run a dance company with my great partner Reese Dennis that goes by the name of Fubu Nation. We do all kinds of things with that. But yeah, we will get into it.
Cool. So, when did you guys realise you had a passion for dance, and when did you know you wanted to make it your career?
Whoa, that's a big question. So I think for me, I spent a lot of my childhood growing up with my cousins and family, so they kind of paved the way for me. So my older cousin Laz, he was very much into Michael Jackson, busting the moonwalk and gliding all over the place, and I literally wanted to be just like him or even better. And I like the attention as well, so I thought, okay, if I get really good at this, I can go somewhere and I can get loads of girls, and you know what I mean? I can go far, right? At school I could be that famous person who knows how to dance and do all of that. So it really started with my cousin kind of opening the door and being like, this is how you glide like Usher, this is how you dance like MJ. And just from then on, I kind of started to be like, okay, let me get to know this a little bit more. And then by time, things just started to be quite nice and rosy. So
sounds good.
For me, it's a little bit similar, and I feel like everyone in the generations of dance at the moment have a similar thread of Michael Jackson being like a big kind of inspiration, especially for me as a young person. But I think when I decided to kind of run with dance was when I felt like people saw me in dance, if that makes sense. Like I felt seen, which was really nice as a young person. I was very shy as a young person, so like dance was my go-to to express without having to speak. So being noticed as a dancer and being somewhat appreciated drew me more so to want to become a dancer. I originally wanted to be a singer, like triple threat, but yeah, dance kind of took me naturally. So when I started going to Second Wave, which is like down the road, I don't know if anyone knows it, but it's a performing arts like youth club, and I used to come here at Moonshot as well, and from doing like any and every free activity that I could do involving the performing arts, it kind of just built up my skills and my confidence to kind of run with what I felt was meant for me, which is choreographing. I started choreographing when I was in primary school because I had an amazing head teacher who was an artist, and he made us do a talent show every Friday for assembly. So literally Monday to Thursday was rehearsals at lunchtime. So from then I was going in. So yeah, that was kind of my starting point.
I think I kind of slightly always liked dance, but I wasn't aware of it. I don't come from like a household or a family that is like very creative, and like my parents were like born in Sudan, and I was born there. I moved here like super young, and if you're from Sudan, like there is no arts like that. Arts is like embedded in social activity and engagement and culture, and it's like you're not an artist for a profession. So I was never really kind of exposed to the possibilities of that, but I think I just was always like the natural mover of like my family, and I would be the one who's like called on in the family events to like be pushed onto the dance floor. In primary school, I would like win the dance competitions at all the school discos. So I feel like growing up, people was always like, oh yeah, you can dance, and I was like, yeah, it's fun. But like I'd never really like I didn't take my first dance class until I like left secondary school. So but I feel like I was kind of always doing it, and self-taught as well, similar to you. Like when we would put on little things in school, and I was always like self-taught, self-driven, make your own mixes on the computer. And but yeah, I feel like when I got older and I was like going through college and like higher education, I got to a point of like I was about to go to uni, and I had like this wave of anxiety of being like, I was never really passionate about the things I was studying. Like I'd done business, and then like I finished that, and then I was like, I don't really want to study it anymore. So then I went and done media, and then I was like, oh, this is cool, but I'm not really in it. So then I was like, I'm just not going to do anything for a while. I don't want to go to uni. I think I was quite lucky. I was quite young when I realized I don't want to blow my student loan on something I'm not going to use. So I didn't do anything for a while, and I kind of like took a year or two out and like thought about it, and then was like, I actually quite enjoy dance. By that point I was training in and with a group from South London called Definitives, and I was doing like hip hop and street, and we were doing like local, you know, the community shows, the Yan shows, and like back then there was always a dance show, and like I feel like we would really perform for each other. Like everyone was in like the dance crew culture, which I feel like isn't the same as it used to be. And yeah, just kind of through that I was like, I really enjoy this, and I feel like this is something I would want to get paid for, and this is the way I'd like to live my life. So that's when I was like, I think I know what I want to study, and then I went to kind of pursue it a little bit more formally a lot later on. So yeah, I think that was kind of my journey.
It's quite nice to hear that we've got like, oh, you're going to say something, were you?
No, go for it.
Quite nice to hear that we've got like a common interest with like school and youth clubs as a passion that then grew into something else. So yeah.
That's what I was going to say, like you guys all had a passion at a young age, and it was always something you did just for fun and just to like feel good in yourself, which is really cool. But would you say that when you were starting to take it more seriously, like going to training or going to industry, were there any hurdles you faced while you were training and when you entered the industry?
Plenty. I don't think we've got time for it. But where do we start? I mean, I think it's got to start with within. So I guess my family would be the first thing to go to, because you know, when you tell your mum you want to be a dancer, it's just kind of like, what? Dance? Like, where did this come from? Because initially, after finishing school, I was actually studying law for a bit because my mum wanted me to be a lawyer. So I was kind of studying law part-time as well as doing a BTEC in National Diploma in Performing Arts, specialising in dance. So I was kind of like trying to pursue my heart and my passion, but as well as trying to kind of impress my mum and please her, because she really wanted me to be a lawyer. So I was kind of like in this limbo land of what do I do? And then actually came to the exams, and I was just like, do you know what? I can't do this. I got to think about myself. And if I be really honest, like my first dream was actually to be a footballer. And that didn't go through because my mum was like, this is just interfering with your education, and we can't have all these late nights and you traveling here and here and here, it's just too much. So that's when I was like, okay, I'll study law then, I'll please you, I'll do what you want. And then I was like, nah, this ain't working again. So I was just like, do you know what, I'm gonna find my next hobby. And dance was something that made me smile, it was interactive, it was fun. So then I pursued that. And I was just like, okay, if I do this, then I'm really gonna have to ham this in. I'm gonna have to conquer this if I'm gonna pursue it, so that no one can say nothing to me. So that's kind of how it got started. But I guess trying to please my family, to make them feel like this is a sort of safe career for me to pursue it. As long as I dedicate myself fully, as long as I'm committed to the art as much as I can. And then, you know, hopefully those doors will open. And they did. So, yeah.
So when they opened, did you face any like challenges?
Yeah, but we don't have time for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to hold the space,
You're
but
not,
yeah. So obviously, once conquering that, and then going through the kind of, you know, the TV lifestyle. Basically, when I got a little bit more famous through TV, things started to ease up again. But then I went for another challenge where you're like, okay, how sustainable is this all? Like, I'm on TV and I'm doing great stuff, and yesterday I worked with Madonna, and then a few times again I'm working with Kylie Minogue, I'm meeting the Queen, I'm hanging out with the royal family, and I'm having these conversations. But then I haven't had a gig for like the last 2 weeks, and I know rent is coming, so I'm like, okay, how am I gonna do this? How am I going to start providing for myself, where you're trying to live as an artist in the industry? So that's when I had to feel like, okay, this is quite interesting. How do I get around this? So I then started to think about getting myself into teaching. And as well as being in the crew, I was looking for representation. So I got myself an agent to represent me on the theatre side as well as on the commercial side. So I tried to cover my bases as much as I could so that I could sustain myself as an artist. So yeah, so those were some of the dips. Yeah.
I think a big hurdle for me growing up was money. I didn't come from a privileged background, or like I didn't have a lot of support money wise, and my family didn't have a lot of money. So like when I wanted to go, I don't know, on that dance trip, or like go to these things and go to like dance school, like there was me asking. I used to be scared to ask my mum just because I knew it was going to be no because of how much it would have cost. So that was a big thing for me, like hard thing for me, watching like my friends who were doing the things that I loved, but I couldn't take part sometimes. At the time that I was growing up, there weren't a lot of support systems that I knew of. So I felt like for a while that was hard for me. And then also, I didn't really have the kind of conventional journey of a dancer. So I used to go second wave, which was like my main kind of thing because it was near enough free. I think sometimes you paid like £3 or something silly like that at the time. But started going there, and then I applied to go to dance schools, like drama schools and stuff. I got into quite a few places, but at the time, if you didn't have the fee, you had to like apply to something called a Dada Award, which is like a scholarship, and that was like few and far between. And I remember like vividly like getting into like I think it was Italia Conte and Erdang, all these schools, but I didn't get the Dada Award, so like I couldn't go because I didn't have I didn't have 30 grand a year or whatever it was that you needed to pay. So I had to kind of make peace with the fact that I couldn't go to dance school and complete like what I actually dreamed of doing training wise. I ended up going to a school called WAC Performing Arts, which is in North London, and it's so mad because I started the year and it was still quite early that they were doing the diploma, and they lost their funding, so they asked me to start the year again. And just where I was in my journey, I just wasn't about waiting. So like I came out of WAC, went and got a job, any everyday job, and paid for classes and just made my own timetable, started auditioning. I was training from time anyway, so like I joined a crew called Vortex, which probably no one knows.
Yes, I do.
a crew called Vortex. They scouted me as like a rave when I was gassed. But I started a crew like when I was 15, and then I started my own company when I was 18, and kind of made my own opportunities and stopped waiting for opportunities, which I think is a big thing, which I will probably talk about later, but like a big thing for a lot of the artists, especially working a lot in the industry now, is that these people that you see on screen did not sit around and wait for someone to tell them like this is an opportunity or you're going to be this person. Like they've grafted their own opportunities. So I think that's a big learning experience for me growing up. And then I think one of the hurdles that I face at the moment, which I know might sound like but is being a female in the industry, a female choreographer. There's not many of us, female movement director, female leader of colour is hard to navigate because you deal with a lot of different awkward energies and kind of being told how to do your job a lot of the time in patronising ways, which I have to kind of go like this because it's Marks and Spencer's or it's like a big artist, it's WizKid, or do you know what I mean? Like it's that for me is quite hard as a hurdle, but it's something that I'm learning and trying to understand how to navigate so I can help those that are coming up as well, because I want to see more females, especially women of colour in the industry, because there's not enough.
I think if you're like a creative or an artist of any kind, there's always hurdles, and our individual experiences just kind of shape what those hurdles are for all of us. But I don't think any of us have it smooth or easy. Some of us might get it easier. I feel like for me, a lot of hurdles were like starting pretty late and then feeling like quite behind, and not. For a long time in my mind, it was never plausible for me to like really do this thing that I'm doing. And yeah, you just battle a lot of like the, insecurities and like self-confidence, and you see where you kind of want to be, and you see other people there and you're not quite there yet, and then there's a lot you have to kind of negotiate in your own mind with that. For me as well, I think especially like our generation, when we were kind of like doing street dance, and I didn't feel like hip hop or street dance was taken very seriously either. As like now it's a little bit different. There's hip hop theatre, it's growing, there's like courses and diplomas and everything that's kind of opening up, and I feel like it's being considered more and taken more seriously in like institutional spaces, whereas like back then it was like not. We were like all just training at the youth club and teaching each other, and so when I was coming up, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to train, I need to like do ballet and learn pliés and tendus, and that was like, but I wasn't that person. So like there's a few things of like feeling like you need to have there's a criteria that you need to meet in order to be considered like you can step into certain spaces, or like, I don't know, be worthy enough to call yourself a professional, or to, do you know what I mean? So I feel like there's a lot of battling with that, that I kind of like moved through. But I always like moved through it. And I think when I decided to really pursue this, I was like, in my mind, I was like, I want to go to a dance school and I need to learn contemporary because that's what's gonna help me break in. But I was like, but I've never done a ballet class in my life, and I'm 21, and everyone started when they were like 3. So what do I do? So I kind of played the long game for a little bit. Like I was like, I want to go to the place. I know I'm not going to get in. I'm going to go to Lewisham College for 2 years and do the dance course there, because I hear it's
the place to go.
The place to go that doesn't cost money. Like you can do it as part of your formal studies. So I was like, let me go and learn a tendu and a plié, and train for 2 years, and then apply to the place and hopefully get in. And then I did that, and then I got into the place, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm kind of doing this. And like I stepped into the place. I made a joke with you when we sat down. I was like, you deal with this thing of feeling like an imposter. I kind of like stepped into the building. I was like, I kind of winged it to get here. Like, okay, now I'm here. Let me just like move through this. And then dance school, like if you go to vocational school, it's grueling. Like we done 45 contact hours a week, and on top of that, I'm working part time because I have to fund myself and all of these things. So there's a lot in that like was really hard. A lot of the time I didn't think I would see the 3rd year, and I actually think a lot of my peers and my mentors and my teachers didn't think I'd see it either, because I was just trying to negotiate so much. I was like 23 by the time I started. most of my peers in my group were like 18, like just out of college, and I was like, okay, I'm like an adult and I have like a life and I have things that I need to pay for and I need to finance myself, and like life is really real. And we start at 8 a.m. every day and we finish at 6, and then we have Saturday and Sunday off, but I have to work, and like you burn out a lot. And I remember like when I finished the course, the like director of the school at the time like gave me a hug, and I could feel in that hug that they were like, wow, you made it. Like we didn't feel like you would get here. But I feel like, yeah, there's a lot of like having to prove things to yourself and prove a lot of people wrong. And I feel like coming out of studying, I feel like the experience of those 5 years overall between Lewisham and the place was like really finding myself and my voice as an artist. And I kind of left there with a completely different idea of what I thought I wanted to be as an artist and as a dancer and as a mover, and I kind of left there and was like, I have to create a space for myself and a lane for myself, and I have to pursue the things that make me. I remembered why I'd studied dance in the first place. It was because I wanted to enjoy the job in which I do, and leaving that, I'm going into like the industry and like going to castings, which I hate, like that, like cattle call culture and like trying to be seen and like needing to be in the front, and it makes me feel a little bit cringe. I don't feel comfortable in those spaces. I realized really early that's not my lane, that's not my bag. So what is? And I remembered that I want to enjoy what I want to do, and I didn't enjoy that. So I had to find a space within dance that I enjoyed. Otherwise, I might as well just gone to uni and done the media course. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of, for me, the hurdles is always like keeping your integrity and reminding yourself why you're doing what you're doing, and always knowing that you can kind of be the author of your own script, and like you just have to always keep that in mind, because I think you can be led astray or feel obliged to do certain things or move into certain spaces, and it's a constant cycle though. It's not like, oh, now I'm here, I know this and this is what it always is. This is something that like, you still move through, and as you evolve, your problems will evolve, and like you'll never get rid of them, you'll just encounter new ones, and you just have to kind of, it's that tenacity and that resilience of like knowing who you are as an artist and why you want to do what you do, and keeping that, and like just kind of hoping that it works for you.
That was really good. That was like wow, that was really good. Thank you. That was so cool. I was there like taking it all in, like, yeah, I need to get a pen. But would you guys say that, like, obviously, like everything that you guys said was basically like dance and like training was like the main focus, and like grinding and working really hard, and like I've just graduated and like grueling and like really intense. Like, what did you use, like maybe outside of dance, or what mechanisms did you have to support you when you were like feeling down, or you were like getting stressed, or you were something not to do with dance, because often it can be like just dance, but did you have anything outside of dance that would help you when you were like not feeling super creative or super positive?
It's a good question. I was thinking about this, and the best way I could describe it is that you need to, I was thinking, if you visualize yourself as a plant, I think that's a good starting point. Because a plant, it needs to be it needs to be catered for, right? It needs to have attention and detail. It needs to be in the right environment, in the right space. It needs to be fed, it needs to be watered, it needs to be in sunshine for it to grow and for it to blossom and be fruitful, right? So in the same way that I saw it, luckily enough for me, I happened to be in a group which kind of helped me feel safe. So my environment was different, because I felt like, hey, I'm with like 10, 11 other guys just like me, and we're all sharing and bouncing this energy with each other. We're all on the same page, there's one vision, there's one goal. We're working our butts off to kind of like make the dream work. That's where the motto came, chase the dream and not the competition, because we were like, this is what we want to do for the rest of our lives, and if we can commit each other accountable that, hey, we're going to work through this, through thick and thin, then surely there's some fruit and reward at the end of it. So I think your environment is really, really important, because you need to be in a space where you can feel like you are encouraged to do your best and to achieve your goals. So at times with disappointment, it's kind of like, who are the people you're close to kind of give you that kind of nudge and encouragement? Yeah, you can do it, come on, yeah, just go for it, bounce back. So if I failed an audition that I really wanted, who are those people that you go to kind of build yourself back up? And I remember there were times where like I really need this job and I didn't get it, and it's like, oh, is that it then? It's like, it's my career done. So it's kind of like linking to what you said about having that resilience to keep going. And then when there is a job that you really want and you do get it, it's like, wow, this is amazing. This is like the dream that I want to live. And then when you tour the world with your friends and you're seeing this and that and the impact it has on your life, it's kind of like, yeah, this is like the dream I wanted to live, like tour around the world with this company. So it's kind of like, it all makes it worth it in the end. The hard work that you put into it, it makes it worth it, I think. So it's kind of like you need to embrace the challenges, because without those challenges, there's no room for real growth and adaptation. If everything's just too easy on the plate, I think there's something not right there. I think like when you're challenged to come out of your comfort zone, that's when there's room for you to learn something new about yourself and room for things to kind of blossom out of that.
Yeah, do you know what? I think healthy competition actually, like I think our generation, we came up looking up, well, I can't speak for everyone, but like looking up at Flawless and other groups, and we had like a competition called GWY that like was like, yeah, the competition to be at. But I feel like we had competitions all the time. And like it was even to a point when you had tech, you need to bang out tech, bro.
Yeah,
like
tech was the show for the dancers.
Yeah, like tech was serious, like, and I think I always had this in my head, and I just realized it now, but like I always said to myself, I'm either an underdog or a winner, like, and I think being an underdog isn't bad. Like you're either a sick underdog that's like bubbling, or you're a winner. Like losing is not a thing, like, and if you are losing, it's about learning something as opposed to like, and don't get me wrong, I've been in those situations where I felt sorry for myself, but I've always had a hunger to like wanna win, wanna get something, like that person did that, okay, I'm gonna do this. Like I think I'm quite competitive anyway, like, but that comes from like battling and doing competitions and also like not realizing sometimes I'm the only woman in the room, like, and not as like I never saw it as gender, but like seeing that that's a powerful thing as well, and taking up space, I think as well for me was a big drive. Yeah, I think those are the things that have like kept me going, and also just the people that I've been blessed to be around. Like I joined, like from going from Second Wave, I joined a crew called Vortex, and then I auditioned. We all auditioned as a crew for Boy Blue Entertainment, and I joined that when I was 15. And then from then on, I felt like I just started to grow like a family. Like I don't really have a big family. It's quite all over the place, and I don't know a lot of people in my family. So it was kind of like an extended family to have dance people around me, and that's still to this day. Like I feel like I've got friends that I've known for like 20 plus years through dance, and those have been like magnificent support systems for me.
I think there's a few components that like I think aid and help me. I think one of them similar is definitely like your tribe, the people around you, and how they feed into you. Because there's a lot of people that are your friends that are not really your friends, you know what I mean? And there's like a lot of people that want to win for themselves, and that means like you not winning. And I think a lot of people see sometimes like your professional career still as like this competition in the wrong way, because I think healthy competition is what you said. Healthy competition helps, but so like having being surrounded by the right people, and I, similar to you, Chloe, like I'm surrounded, and you, Leroy, like surrounded by people that also do what I do in their own way, and I'm constantly inspired by my friends and the people that I kind of hold close to me. Another one for me is also, I've always been like the observer in the room, like kind of growing, because I felt like an underdog for a while. So I would come in and like participate, but I was always like quite quiet and observant. And through that, what I learned was in being in like this crew and then like I was in like the first generation of like avant-garde youth when they created a youth company, and then I like upgraded and went to the main company for a bit and like danced with this choreographer or that choreographer for a while, and like took classes everywhere, and I started to see people's practice, and by being the observer in the room I kind of learned what I didn't enjoy in certain spaces and what I really took to and what helped me thrive, and I kind of used that almost as a coding system of like, okay, well this worked, and I felt like he was really horrible and put a terrible energy in the room, and like, oh, this person was really encouraging in this way, and I really appreciate how that person teaches and how this person holds space, and like I kind of started to like season my own stew. Do you know what I mean? Of being like, oh well, I don't want to be that person where dancers think I'm horrible, and I don't want to be so it started to inform like how I want to move in my professional like career, and how I want to treat people in the room, and how I want to work, and in order to get the best results out of me. But then also I feel what we do is not a lone wolf sport. Like you need to, even if like you're the head of your own table, you need people to aid, help you realize the things that you do, and that's like whether that's like people behind the scenes and producers, or whether that's like your dancers and like the cast that you work with, and like or supporters, like people that are gonna believe in your work and want to help you. So that comes with building good relationships. So tribe, work ethic, and like building good relationships, and like being that person that people want to work with you, because then you'll always be working. And then just things that I constantly tell myself is like hard work beats talent. Like a lot of us are talented, and I have like friends that I think, or people I studied with, that are like far more capable and able than me, but like maybe didn't go as far. And I think it's the hard work thing. Another thing I tell myself is like it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. I live by that all the time. Like it's a long game. Everything you do is incrementally building the person you're going to be, and it's shaping who you're going to be further down the line, even though you can't see it. Like Jay-Z didn't become a billionaire overnight. Like that's a breach. But do you know what I mean? Like hard work beats talent. I tell myself all the time. I didn't always think. I'm real with myself. I know I wasn't always the most talented person in the room, but I think I have like a drive. And I was like, okay, I want to be a maker, I want to be a choreographer, like let me create that for myself. And I think in this world, in this space of like freelancing and trying to navigate that, like I left uni and didn't know how to write an invoice. Like they don't necessarily equip you with like everything you need to know. Like my first tax return, I was like, what am I doing? Like, do I have to do this? Like HMRC would have come for me, you know. But like, it's like knowing that you have to graft, and like that's always been my thing. I'm just gonna work hard, and I'm gonna create. My thing's been creating opportunities for myself. Like I want to dance, but I'm very picky about how I want to dance. I don't want to be in this kind of space. I don't want to do that. I hate auditions. I don't want to go to castings. Like but I want to dance. Like, so how can I do that, knowing that I want to do it in a very prescribed and specific way? So I started to create my own opportunities. I was like, okay, I'm going to apply for this. Let me do that. Like, and so many rejected applications, so many. But like, you know, out of every 11 you apply for, you might get 1 or 2, and then for like sooner or later, like you start getting more yeses than you start getting no's, and kind of decided to build my own table and sit at the head of it. And I feel like that's why I kind of live by it.
So like you were saying, like I knew Kloe as well, about making, like choosing what you want to do, making your own opportunities. Were there any opportunities in particular that you remember that opened doors for you?
I think probably and definitely yes. it goes back to that thing of like everything that you do is incrementally building you. So I think everything's an opportunity from like IRIE, for example, like me and Reese, with who we like became resident artists here for like 2 years, and they supported us so much with space, and like a contribution like that actually does quite a lot for us. Like being able to come in and being like, oh my gosh, Rosie, we need a studio. Like I'm always texting Rosie, being like, do you have studio space? Like, because it gives me a chance to come in and like refine what I'm doing, so that when I do move forward with whatever I'm working on, I'm like in a prepared place. Like studio space is extortionately expensive in London. Like we're always chasing free space. So it's like everything from something like that to maybe a job that I done like for a big brand, like and then people see that and they're like, oh, like we can take him more seriously because he done movement direction for Gucci, but really like it's yeah, I think it's part and parcel. I feel like everything is a contribution. So many things are a contribution, like whether they're big or small, and whether it's like people that advise you, mentor you, really look out for you, or people that help open doors for you, for sure. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I was thinking about House Like Secret. It's kind of similar. I feel like every closed door, I just went and done it anyway. Like, if I couldn't do it with that person, I'd done it by myself. Like, if I didn't get into that show, I just made the show myself. Or like, I think in that way, opportunities can really work for you, because I think there's a big thing in being in sight and in mind. Like, if for example, if you are doing castings and auditions but you don't feel seen, like there's other ways of people seeing you especially now with social media. Like it's so much easier now than like back in the day. Like I just think that the opportunities that I've cultivated have been the ones that have opened doors when the doors have actually been shut previously, and I think that's been an extremely powerful thing for me to realize, because I meet a lot of people that are like what I said about, they're amazingly talented but they're just not putting the hard work in, but it's because they stopped at that closed door and didn't create the opportunity for themselves. And again, I think it goes back to what we're talking about. It's about who's around you, who's talking in your ear, like what's your influence. Like I think there's a lot of aspects that I don't think, well for me personally, I didn't realize until now looking back, really influenced that kind of confidence to be able to do that. But I was, I had a fire from time before I could even dance. I thought I was 6. Nice. And then I realized I really wasn't. And then I had to learn. But I think that's like, if you've got that as a natural thing, I think run with it. And even if you don't, I think it's just knowing how powerful you are. And a lot of the time, if you're in your own lane, it's going to feel lonely, but it's because you're doing something unique. It's not because you're not doing something good. So I think never giving up is a really important thing.
Definitely. I'll say what. Yeah, I guess for me, moments that kind of open doors. I mean, it's like, it's the big stuff and it's the small stuff. I don't know, I've got this real cheesy sort of experience where I almost feel like as soon as like TV came in, it was just smooth. So there's something about mainstream success. Once one door opens for you in that avenue, then it kind of opens another door and then another door, and it just starts to kind of go in a cycle. So I found it quite fortunate for me that through the success of, I feel like I'm just going to keep repeating the same thing, but through the success of like Britain's Got Talent, I felt that that really kind of internationally put us on the map as a group. So I felt like that was amazing, because that opened so many doors for me, and that became like my passport to kind of do many things. But then for myself, I felt like, hey, there's more to me. Do you know what I mean? There's more to me. I need to find now what my identity is, as well as kind of faithfully, you know, being in the company for like, I don't know, a decade. Do you know what I mean? So I gave a lot of time and effort and energy, and it came to a point where I'm like, okay, what else can Leroy do? What else does Leroy want to do? What else can he explore? And I've got so much more to me that I know I can give. So it was kind of like, okay, where's the next challenge for me? And it's kind of, you know, in that journey, navigating and exploring, and I like teaching, I like passing on information, I like exchanging, I like informing, I like building people up, and I feel that's kind of like the next sort of path, kind of building a kind of small community company that kind of, you know, creates opportunities for people and just gets the ball moving in other areas. That's kind of my mind.
Cool. So, have there been any major highlights, any jobs or any experiences you've had that you're like, oh, I feel so grateful to have done that. I love that experience. Like, it was just really fun.
I have to just pick one, right? I think performing in front of the Queen. Come on, like, just performing in front of the Queen and speaking to her afterwards. That felt like some people would never get to do that, and for me that was a massive thing. Like me telling my family and my mum, which was just like, wow, it's just like that for me. That will always stay for me. Like just performing and knowing that the Queen just sat there. And then meeting her afterwards, yes, that was very good, yes, very good, yes, and what did you? So yeah, it was just like rest in peace, the Queen. So I think for me, that for me, do you know what I mean? That was something special, as well as many others. You know what I mean? Street Dance Movie 1 and 2, Madonna, and the music video, like wow, like look who's here, kind of vibe. So yeah, that was definitely one of the main highlights. Yeah.
I have quite a few, but I think this year particularly I've been really, really blessed. A big one for me was choreographing for the Brit Awards for Little Sims, and performing as well as choreographing 2 tracks with 75 people or 85 people involved. Like that was a huge accomplishment and big thing for me, because at the time I was in it and I was like engrossed, and I was like, but now I look back, I'm like, I'm sick, bro. Are you mad? I performed, like I didn't even rehearse much, and everyone was like, how did you do it? Literally jumped on stage. Like yeah, like that for me was epic, especially getting to work with Little Sims. Like she's someone who's actually really believed in me from young. Because there used to be a thing called Battle of the Boroughs, I don't know if it still runs now, but she used to rap and then we used to dance and everyone would compete. So it's like seeing someone, I don't even remember, she used to win it. Yeah. Had the Empire. But like being able to work with her has been a dream. So that was a big thing. And I choreographed my first tour this year as well for Anne-Marie, which was huge for me as well. So those 2 kind of big moments, I think. I haven't even thought about it really because I've just been going, but those 2 are big. And then one cheesy one, which I think is quite funny, but I did a world tour with a show called Blaze, which was like a big street dance show. Like it doesn't run anymore, but I performed at Sydney Opera House to Mel B from the Spice Girls. She watched me.
Scary Spice,
yeah. But as a child I loved Spice Girls, and then to think that she watched me and then she came and met us, I was so excited. And that's really sad, sorry, but yeah.
I think there's so many. I don't know. I always have to give a long answer, innit? I feel like how I've managed to shape what I do is like for a variety of different things. So it's really hard for me to pick one because I feel like I still engage with like the theatre world very much, like, and I'm like creating full-length shows and like doing like choreographic commissions in that way, and I feel like it's a very different space to like working in the commercial world and like doing movement direction and being on like sets and music videos and working for like brands and then like running my own company as well. Is like they all fall under this umbrella of like dance, but they're all so different and require different things from you as well. I would say I'll give you 2. I feel like one thing that I'm very proud of is what I've managed to accomplish with Reese, my creative partner, and what we've been able to do with Fubu, because I feel like we have created our own opportunities, and I've seen it, like, me and him talk about something and I'm just like, did you ever really think that, like, do you know what I mean? Like, we worked for so hard for so long without like any return. material or financial return, and then like you suddenly enter a space and it's like whoa, and then you're struggling to keep up with it. But I would say I'm really proud of everything that we've managed to accomplish with that company so far, and at the back end of last year and the start of this year, we've done like a massive 9-week R&D for a new show that we're going to create next year. And even everyone was like, what? You got funding to do 9 weeks of R&D? And I'm just like, yeah, because who told you that you have to like compromise, or like an R&D can only be a week or two, because that's what we know of. And it's like, I feel like we reached for the sky, and like we went beyond, and I feel like it's only the beginning as well. So I feel like, yeah, what I've been able to do with Food Week to date, especially for Black boys in contemporary, like, and I see that when we do a lot of teaching, I see that in like how young people of color like engage with us and can relate to us. And I remember when I was training, I didn't have that. So I love to hold that space and that position. And then on the flip side, like with everything that I do as like an individual and a freelancer, like I got to help create a show for Tommy Hilfiger. This was like right before the pandemic, for London Fashion Week, and it's my first time ever doing anything in fashion like that. And it was like a triple fashion show where he done like a collaboration line with her, the artist, and Lewis Hamilton, and I got to meet and work with all of them, and I got to walk Naomi Campbell through her route. I was like, "That's where you're gonna go, babes, and you can turn left here, and you can turn this way." And like, yeah, and I got to work with like a massive like choir of like beautiful Black people, like, and we bought renditions and of like Soul to Soul to a Tommy Hilfiger show. And I think it was like his most inclusive show ever, of like plus size and queer and like gender crossing, neutral, all sorts of like, yeah, it was a show that really represented representation. I was really proud to be a part of that.
Thank you guys, that was really cool. Again, I need a pen. I've got a pen, I'm gonna make notes. So we kind of already answered this, but I'll ask it again. What advice would you give to your younger selves? If you were like teaching yourself when you were like 21, 12, 17 or whatever, what advice would you give?
Go for it. Don't worry about anyone else. It's about, I don't know, half of the time I feel like I'm just battling against myself. I really do. It's really weird. I just feel like I'm in my own world sometimes, and it's like, who am I trying to please? And it's like, I just got to do me and be authentic. And I think in the past, I've kind of been in that space where I've just, I've held back because of, silly little things. You just hold yourself back because you think, will this person approve of it if I did this? And, what would they think if I did that? And what would the industry think if I did this? And you just kind of end up putting so many barriers in front of you before you even got started. So it's kind of like, you just got to take those risks and see what happens, So I think to my younger self, I'd be like, go for it. Don't worry about anyone else. Just do you. Be happy. Take some risks. Pursue what you want to do, because that's what you've got to do, right? If you really want it, you got to take some risks. So yeah, go for it.
I know it probably sounds really cheesy, but like fail as much as possible to be able to learn as much as you can. A big thing I think I would say is do you for you, kind of similar to what you were saying about trying to impress other people, because I feel like you've got to be your biggest cheerleader, which I don't think I was a lot of the time. I was waiting for approval from other people. So if I could go back, I would make a shrine for myself. No, I wouldn't really. But like, I would be my biggest cheerleader, and I would also be my biggest critic, but in a healthy manner, not in a like imposter syndrome way, or like, I would definitely hold myself to that, and never give up. Like, there's times when you're like, no one's gonna employ me, and then you get a phone call and you're like, okay then. Like, so it's really important to not give up.
Yeah, I mean, I echo everything that they have said, and I guess to add something different into the mix, I would say know like the worth that you carry as like an artist that is contributing to culture and the arts, like knowing that there's like validity and there's weight and it's needed. And I feel like often as artists we can be like, oh my gosh, like just give me the opportunity to do what I like to do, and like there's this thing of like feeling like the opportunity is enough and it's not. And I think that's a big thing people tell dancers all the time. Oh, it's a great opportunity so that they can like pay you less or not pay you. Exposure. I hate that one. So
Guys,
it's like,
don't do it for exposure.
yeah, it's like knowing your worth and knowing that like you wouldn't hire a floor cleaner to come and be like, I know you charge £50, but I'm gonna give you 35. Like, so it's that thing of like knowing your worth and knowing what like that you have what you do is your passion, but it's also your job, and you have to like work in favor of yourself to make it sustainable for yourself. So know your worth. Yeah.
Off the back of that, do you have any advice for making it, or not making it, for working as a freelancer?
Yes, networking is key. Bing, bing, bing. You got to network. You got to get yourself out there. Yeah, you got to choose what path it is that you want to be in. You got to have a conversation with yourself and be like, where do I want to go? And pursue that path. So if it's down a commercial route, it's about going to class. It's about putting yourself in environments that just allow that conversation to happen. It's just about having conversations with people, getting to know who's in this industry, who's in this similar path, who can I get to know, what opportunities are there for me, and do you know what I mean? And I feel like through that path, hopefully something will open from that. But I think initially it's about starting that conversation. Like, where do you want to be and how do you get to it, and take those steps to then follow that through. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's going to see shows where a particular person's there that you might want to speak to afterwards, or is it going to workshops, or is it going to a jam where there's a cypher and there's that environment where people are going to be there because they're about that life and you want to be about that life, so you want to kind of be in that atmosphere. Do you know what I mean? You got to follow that community, you got to follow that path, and just being like knowledgeable with what's happening in that field, social media wise, Instagram profile, get yourself set up, show reels, CV, what is it saying, kind of like start to kind of cater your path so that you are kind of ready, whether it's business cards, like, yeah, just check yourself and be like, am I prepared for this path? If I want to be an artist, do I have a show reel that shows me in the best light? Or if I want to create, have I got a website, or am I creating one that showcases my work and what I'm about? You know, have I got pictures ready to kind of send to agencies if I want to pursue a particular path or not? So you kind of want to, you know, do a bit of work so that you feel a bit like, hey, you know, I've got something to give and offer to people once that conversation starts.
Learn how to do your tax, build a pension, that no one teaches you that. Because if I knew to start saving for my pension from when I was like 15, maybe you lot did, but I didn't. But like, if I learned to save them then, I'll be 75. Well, I'm gonna make it, but I'll be at 75 mark. But yeah, learn to save. Learn how to do invoices properly. You got to remember, as a freelancer, you're a sole trader, which means uno, solo, like no one else. You're doing your own thing. You have to look after yourself. So learning like the little business hacks that you can, and if I would learn that anyway, but also if you do want to get an agent, use your agent. Like, I feel like a lot of people are on agencies and just doing it for the opportunity to get jobs, but you're actually paying them a percentage like when you get jobs, so make them do the work. A big thing for me as well is, like we said it already, but cultivating your own opportunities and not waiting for anyone else. As a freelancer, you have to pay your rent, no one else is. So you've got to make sure that you are making and creating the opportunities that are going to be able to bring in income, and set your rate. This is another thing that no one teaches, I don't think, is setting your rate. His rate is different from my rate, is different from Leroy's rate. Like, it's totally different, and that's good because we're freelance and we all offer different things. But if you don't know your rate, people are going to end up telling you what it is. So that's a big thing. I think all the business side I think is really important. I wish I knew more of beforehand.
And it's the things we don't learn in school. It's like those business things. When you come out, you kind of just trial and error. But if you can get ahead, then great. I would add to that like just consistency. Like I think, and that doesn't mean like consistently being great. It means like consistently just moving in the direction of where you want to be and what you want to do. And consistency doesn't necessarily look or feel like you're consistently going to be successful. It's just like I'm consistently moving towards the life that I imagine for myself. And by doing that, you will grow and you will build your network and you will you will get the rate that you're asking for said job. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier, like it's all incremental, and like you will, in hindsight, one day you'll look back on like 5 years ago and be like, oh wow, actually I have come a certain distance in my journey. And then maybe 7 years later you'll be like, okay, wow, I've grown from 2 years ago. And then you see what it looks like 10 years to be an overnight success. You're not going to leave school and be like, maybe you will, like booked and blessed and like financially secure. Like similar to what you said, like I was thinking about my life in September and like I was like, wow, I have no work in October. And then like October's here and I'm like, oh, I have no time in October. So it's like trust, consistency, just keep moving. And it's for those who like stop moving, that like stop or halt their journey or don't acquire what they saw for themselves. It's also possible, because remember, hard work is talent.
And also be nice.
Yes,
Always be a good energy and turn up on time to rehearsal.
Because then people want to work with you.
And plan B's and C's are good as well. So just work that is, do you know what I mean? So if one door doesn't open, try another one.
Cool. Okay. I think I'm out of questions, so I think we can head over to you guys if anyone has any questions.
How do you find inspiration and all that sort of stuff?
For me, music was a big drive, has been a big drive, always is a big drive for me. Music leads a lot of what I create, but I've also managed to be able to explore different starting points, and I think that's beauty. If you've got time, I don't know if you have time to explore the options of what you're going to create, but it's always nice to collaborate as well, I find. Collaborate with new artists, different artists in the space, and get input from the people that you're working with, if you are working with other dancers, is really nice. And feelings and also problems are big things that influence me in terms of creating. And I don't mean problems in a negative way, I mean like solving a problem. And having a voice through movement, having a say about something drives me a lot.
I'm not gonna. We all have a different process in it. I feel like I'm still figuring mine out. But I would say like trial and error. I think one of the biggest things I've learned is to like not be so precious. And I remember when I used to be, and I feel like it's your art, so you're sensitive about it, even with yourself. But like trial and error. Like when you hit a brick wall, like just turn in a different direction. And like if an idea doesn't work today, just let it go and try something new, and that idea might work tomorrow. Just kind of knowing, because you can also like just waste a lot of time getting nowhere. So it's knowing when like this isn't working right now, this is feeling blocked, let me just do something different. I came in with a plan to work on the intro and it's so not working, I'm just going to work on my middle section. Like, do you know what I mean?
I guess for me, how I like to work is I'm very driven by intention. What am I trying to show? What is the objective here? What is the plan? I felt like I was quite conflicted within myself, because I felt like I'm holding some stuff in. But then through time I was just like, okay, well Leroy, if you want to really explore this, then you're going to have to step out of the box and explore. Find multiple ways, other ways to kind of get around this thing, this desire, this drive that you have to kind of pursue. And once I started to kind of go on that sort of path, that's when I started to be like, okay, cool, what does this look like? So I kind of explored like a duet that I did in a mini company. And yeah, that's kind of how the ball started rolling. And then, you know, we change through time. Like, I feel like I have a new desire now for like hip hop and culture and the vibe and the grooves and the social dances and how it comes into choreography and technique. I feel like, I don't know, I'm kind of like reinventing myself again and playing around with things that I wish I could do back in the day. So I feel like I'm a brand new me in a really interesting way. So I think that's healthy. Through time you should evolve, you should kind of like get to know yourself in new ways, and everything you've done back in the day should just kind of build you up layer for you to kind of do the next thing. Do you know what I mean? Hopefully that answers your question.
I was going to say just do it, just create. I think it depends on what your foundations are, because I think sometimes if you just learn choreography, there's not really a foundation as such. There's a way of moving, but I don't feel like there's a body of like movement that you can say this is this is that. I'm going to put A, B and C together like necessarily really clearly, but you could do that with what you've learned and embodied. But I think sometimes it's looking at how are you building your foundation in terms of you, not necessarily you have to learn pop-in or lock-in or like that might be what you want to do, or is it, but what is your movement? Do you know what I mean? Where's your building block starting in terms, are you someone that's really grounded, like is everything down here or is it up here or that, and having time to explore that and trial and error. And are you someone that likes to create work on yourself, or do you want bodies in the space? Like I think opening up the options and allowing that process to happen, because you're not going to do a rehearsal tomorrow and be like, that's my style. Like it's going to take time for that to build, and that's a good thing because it means it's seasoned, it's real. Do you know what I mean? I think maybe looking at what you draw from, what excites you. Like I've learned a lot of styles, but they don't all excite me in terms of when I create, and I naturally sit in some places in my body, and that's what I want to go with. Do you know what I mean? But that might be different for you, but you will only find out until you try it. So I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I think when you dance with like loads of people quite consistently, or you're under like someone's creative way of working, like you do begin to emulate it naturally, because it's like what your body is experiencing the most. So just kind of like when you said like play, I think to like having a space to play, and whether that's like in a studio or in your bedroom or like whatever, it's just, I think you find your practice over time. So like you have to just like play and investigate what that is, and then it will reveal itself to you after a while. But like you kind of have to go through the motions. Like I was very stuck when I first was like, oh my gosh, I'm a choreographer, I have to like have a way of doing things, and that actually used to limit me. So I think like thinking a little bit beyond those, you put that pressure of like what is expected of you, and then you try to start being like, okay, well I used to dance, I need to move completely away from that. And now I'm more of the thinking of, I feel like everything that everyone I've danced with and been taught by that has really had an influence on me it's an influence on me, and I feel like all of these things, I always say all of these things live inside my body and move through me and come out in my own way. Like I know like myself, when we started a company, we call it a contemporary company because of the spaces we occupy, but I don't think our movement is like solely just what we think of as contemporary. Like we're also hip-hop dancers, and we dance in street crews, and all of that information still exists inside of me, and it comes out in my own way with all the other external training that I've done. It takes years, and I'm still on that journey of like finding my practice. Like I know like there's things I'm good at doing, and there's like I have my go-tos and like my little formula that I can kind of like fall back on, but every day is new. And also as you get a little bit older, Like, you have to work with your body. Like, I don't have the best knees anymore, so that informs like the kind of things that I do. I work to and with my body and not against it.
Something came to mind as well. Don't take any shortcuts. Like, learn everything and learn it properly. And don't think just because you've done something once, then that's it, done, tick, move on to the next. Like, really, like, let it simmer. Like, be in that simmering phase where you get to really enjoy it, get to really understand it, like the origin, the root of what you're doing, and out of that, let that open another door. Yeah.
Actually, I have another question off of that. Because I'm a self-taught dancer, but I went to like different, like I went into like a dance group at one point, and I went to school to like do a bit of dancing, and then I just started dancing on my own, and like just doing other like work and stuff, just off of like doing a bit of dancing here and there. So like I'm always wondering like how much more do I need to like learn, or what foundations do I need to like learn, or how long do I need to be in it? And I think sometimes that like stops me from actually like creating things, because I kind of have like a battle of, oh, but I need to learn this foundation, I need to learn this foundation. And I think especially like now this generation, it's a bit sometimes like, I don't know, it feels a bit like tiring to feel like, oh, I need to learn this hip hop style or this hip hop style, because some people just kind of are just doing their own thing. And I feel like I don't want to feel like I'm doing my own thing, but I'm also like losing like the culture, like you guys said, and like having that brownness in some of the styles, and like that is also building like me up as a dancer to like to grow. And I think that's like my little battle. So I don't know if that's a question, but that's a little rant. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about that.
I don't think there's any harm in learning as much as you can, because naturally your body will absorb that, your muscle memory will absorb that, and this is just my opinion, but I think it will feel easier to draw on movement if you've got loads to choose from. And when you learn certain foundations, you learn the music of those foundations, like, and especially if you are choreographing to music, it will come more naturally that like, and doesn't have to be like, this is really like basic 101, but if you're dancing to funk and you know you're gonna do this because the beat comes in, because that's naturally in your body, or if you're gonna start popping, you're gonna then hit the snare, do you know what I mean? There's little things that you're gonna start to learn with each style that you learn that will come naturally. And that's a big thing that's happened to me, because when I create choreography, I can create a popping routine, I can create a locking routine, but I can also create a Kloe Dean routine, which is like, I might stop here and go like that, but then I go back into something, like it doesn't need to be one, do you know what I mean? One set style. And I think that's the beauty of it. And I would enforce and try and encourage you to do that, because we can get stuck in our head a lot of like, should I do that, should I not do it? And all that time is still passing. So you could have been in class, do you know what I mean? So I think don't limit yourself before you've even started. Go to that class and take it 4 times and realize, okay, well, whacking's not for me, but locking might be for me, do you know what I mean? Like, don't limit yourself. Like, when I was growing, I don't know, well, it must be for everyone, but there weren't classes like this that you could go to all the time. You had to know people, like, to find out where people were teaching. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I think now there's a lot more access to learn so many different styles, not just hip hop styles, but all the styles from the African diaspora. Like, there's so many, as well as normal contemporary ballet, everything like that. Not that that's not good, but the normal styles that have been around for a very long time. So I think eat as much as you can. Be greedy.
Thank you.
Yeah, just on top of that, I'd say, yeah, your foundations are the key thing. That's what builds the body. So if you see yourself as a tree that, you know, you've got to, the roots of your body, it needs to be soaked and kind of planted in something that's kind of solid, and that's your foundation. So when it comes to like hip hop, when it comes to funk styles, street styles, or any other style, the technique, the foundation needs to be there. And once those elements are there, then out of that you can do whatever you want. But as long as you know yourself, you're staying true to yourself, and you're staying authentic to yourself, then you can do whatever you want. But the foundation, those foundational elements need to be there, because out of that you can then reinterpret, change, evolve it, and mess around with it. Do you get what I mean?
Which advice would you give to someone who is becoming mature, is not giving up, is trying but still not making making it, and you are like trying of like fighting, and you have that fear of going into places and you wanna create your own stuff, but you don't know where to start from?
I think I would ask the question of what is making it first and foremost, like
making it in terms of like being able to work in the dance industry, and
but I would make it even more specific. Like, this is me like being devil's advocate. Like, if making it for you is going on a world tour, then what are the steps to getting on a world tour? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of us as creatives, we get stuck in this unknown, like, I want to be successful. What is that? Do you want to own a dance studio? Like, for example, yes. So then if you want to create your own company, then I think it's about then like mapping out the steps of how you can do that. Who do you know, who you can call that has a successful company? Look at the blueprints or how the other people have done it. Doesn't mean you have to do it like them, but researching and understanding how are people getting this. Like when I started my company, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I was like, I'm just gonna make a company and see what happens. And then I started clocking other people. I was like, well, that person went for that opportunity, so I'm gonna go for that opportunity. Do you know what I mean? It's about clocking what other people are doing in a sense of learning. There's a good book called Still Like an Artist, and it's talking about how being really observant about what your peers are doing and not stealing in a way of like, mwahaha, like I'm just gonna copy you. It's like, how can I steal from the people that I'm seeing and looking up to be able to create that path for myself? And being specific is a really important thing. And I don't want to, if you're confused, it's not a bad thing, but I also feel like you're not gonna manifest something if you don't know what it is. Do you know what I mean? Or you don't have any sort of placement of it. It needs to have a placement. And that's why I say what is making it, because making it for you might be different for what making it is for me. And I think that can also change in time. Like what I wanted when I was 18 is totally different to what I want now at my age. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's how can you build those steps, and who are you talking to? If you're not talking to anyone and you're in your own bubble, like it could probably happen, but it'll probably take 20 years longer than if you started having conversations and it's saying exactly what you're doing now. Now I'm thinking, oh, I'd love to get to know you after this conversation. What is it that you want to do? Can I help you? Do you know what I mean? So I think speaking it out is a really important thing too.
Yeah, speaking it out, and then also like that specificity is necessary, but then also like being really real with yourself in the sense of am I like, it's gonna sound weird, but am I like passively being active? What am I actually doing?
Exactly.
What steps am I actually taking to get on the world tour or to create a company or and I think especially in the arts there's a lot of like, it's kind of ingrained subconsciously in us to kind of like just be really good and then like things will happen and it's like it's not the case. So it's like, yeah, really like be intentional about what you're doing, but also like reflect, what have I actually done in like the last month or two to move towards the goal that I have for myself. A really good thing that helped me was like writing a list of things I want to do, like because then I can hold myself accountable to my list, right? I said I was going to apply for this application. I look back on it, oh my gosh, the deadline's gone, I didn't do it. That was my fault. Okay, cool. I said I was going to move towards this because it's going to help me do that. I said I was going to send that email to ask for advice. I said I was going to apply for this bursary. I said I was going to apply for this residency.
But then if you do 8 out of those 10 things, it's still.
Still moving.
Do you know what I mean? You're still moving.
Yeah, you're still moving towards it.
Yeah, if you're waiting for someone to come to you, like a big thing that someone said to me when I was quite young, and I actually was a bit upset they said it, but now I'm like, it makes sense. Like, no one's coming to save you. Like, no one. It sounds horrible, but like, no one is gonna come and save you unless you're like, help me. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is one of the best advice that I got given, but it only sunk in later that I realized that, like, yeah, you like. You've got to grind, you've got to do something. And I think what's hard now is that you see people's end results.
You don't see the process.
You don't see their process. So it can so people get depressed real quick because they're not getting what they want straight away, because you're seeing the end result. Like, you're not seeing that artist busked for like 20 years before they got a #1 hit, or do you know what I mean, or the team that's behind these people that are surrounding them. It's very deceiving. It's all smoke and mirrors, and I think you can only know that and understand that the more you ask questions and the more you have those conversations and just keep prevailing, like keep going, trying to build.
I think oftentimes we're all struggling with the same things.
Yeah.
But we just don't realize it.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we all have, and it's what I was saying earlier, like, you're gonna always encounter new problems. Like, there's always gonna be problem solving in life, period. I think, like, especially in your work, like, there's always gonna be something to negotiate, something to navigate, something to move around, something to figure out, like, and we're all going through that, no matter, like, however you've imagined that someone has, like, made it, or, like, not. And, like, making it, I don't feel like the concept of making it exists. Because, like, you have to, it goes back to what I was saying about consistency. Like, you have to continue to make it every day in order to be making it. Like, you will never arrive. You will never just arrive. Like, you will, and it, like, you will fall off if that's the mentality. Like, you might acquire something, and you're not gonna hold on to it if you don't have that mentality of constantly pushing for it. Like, every day is making it. There's no destination. There's just evolution. Like, the things that you make for yourself every day might grow, but it's not a stop that you're gonna arrive at. Do you know what I mean? So just, like, enjoy the road of it, but, like, keep going.
Yeah, so start the company.
Do it. Start the company.
Go for it. You can literally start it right now.
Also, do you know, for me,
Who wants to be my company?
hey, there you go, see? That's a start.
Like,
Also,
literally, like, you can have a company right now. And you don't even have to know the full ins and outs of how and why and what. You can literally just start with an idea, which is you want a company. Okay, what's the next idea? Well, you need people. Find the people. Need space. Find space, and create. And then you can start to iron out all the technical elements to it in terms of, okay, platforms, opportunities, funding. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't have to be this big mountain. You can actually start really small and just be like, you know what? I just want to vibe with people. I just want to create a space where I can kind of facilitate something and create something. And it just starts with making those small steps. And like what I was saying, like, create those small targets. Like, I don't know, quarterly goals every 3 months. Try and tick a few things off so that you are stepping in that direction. Do you know what I mean?
Mentally growing.
Yeah.
So, like, work with what you have. You worked with me and Reese before, and, like, me and Reese started our company, and our first show that we ever made was a duet. And not because we wanted to make a duet, it was because, like, we were a new company that had no money and couldn't afford to pay dancers. So it was like, oh, well, we have each other, let's create a duet. If that's you on your own, it's like, okay, let me create a solo. That's like your first work. You don't need a cast. It's hard to ask for people's time, I understand, when you're not, like, paying. And then even people can agree, but then people might not commit in the way that you need them to, and then you can't really say anything because you're not paying them. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, work with what you have. Like, I created a duet as my first show because those were the means that I had. I would have loved the cast. I couldn't afford it. So I was like, okay, well, I can rehearse for no pay because I'm building myself. I'm pouring into myself. Yes, like, work with what you have. And then that duet, like, went on to create more opportunities for us, and, like, we still perform until this day. It's like 4 years old. And then it's like, okay, we got a bit of shine. We've got some funding. okay, we can pay dancers for like a few weeks, like, but after that few week period, it's like they're not around unless you can like bring them back and pay them again. So like, yeah, work with what you have.
Okay. That I'm feeling so inspired. Thank you guys so much. That was amazing. I'm sure everyone else is feeling inspired. Can we give a big